Hi, my name is Kelsey, and this is my presentation over myoglobin. First, I'll be discussing what a protein is. A protein is considered the building block which constructs and maintains all organism cells. They're macromolecules that consist of either one or multiple polypeptide chains. Each chain consisting or is a combination of 20 amino acids. So there's four different structures that we look at in a protein. We have the primary structure, which I have illustrated here. It's a long chain of amino acids connected by peptide bonds. And then we have the secondary structure, which exists in either an alpha helix or beta sheet. Hydrogen bonding is what's responsible for these shapes. Tertiary structure, so this is just one polypeptide chain with an alpha helices and beta sheets as well as other foldings. And then quaternary structure, so we have more than one polypeptide chain, and this figure is actually 3. By the way, I actually did all these figures myself. So there's showing here is actually 3 subunits that a protein, this hypothetical protein has. Oh, and the quaternary and the tertiary all have a lot of interactions going on, disulfide bridges, hydrophobic and hydrophilic interactions, ionic bonding, hydrogen bonding, van der Waals forces. Both of these have those. So there's many different types of proteins in our cells. We have enzymes, which are responsible for the breakdown of catabolic reactions. We have structural proteins that basically construct our cells or maintain our cells. We have motor proteins, we have signaling and receiving proteins, we have gene regulation proteins, transport proteins, and storage proteins, which is actually what my protein is that I'm looking at today, myoglobin. So the discovery of myoglobin occurred in the late 1950s by John Kendrew. He was basically on a quest to figure out what proteins look like, and he looked at the sperm whale, and he actually figured out its structure through X-ray crystallography. So here's an image published, the first image ever of a protein, in fact, that he published in Nature in 1958. So the structure of myoglobin, we have the primary structure, which is 154 residues or amino acids, and then we have their secondary structure. As you can see up here, it's mainly alpha helices, and then our tertiary structure is 8 alpha helices as well as that red thing in the center, which is the iron-ion complex, or the heme group, which is responsible for binding oxygen to store it, of course. So myoglobin has a lot of different functions. It's very similar to hemoglobin that we have in our blood. It can pick up and hold on to oxygen. Its main function, though, is storage. So it stores oxygen for times of hypoxia in a cell or a low oxygen concentration. It is also responsible for transportation in some situations, or it can also act as a buffer. So which organisms have this? Well, many believe that myoglobin evolved with because of mitochondria demands for oxygen. So basically, organisms are tissues that need excessive oxygen, or they're not getting enough oxygen to their muscles. For example, as you can see in this figure right here, the skeletal muscle and heart. So both of these muscles are doing a lot of work, and they need a lot of oxygen for this work. And myoglobin helps by storing this oxygen for them to use. It's also found in organisms that, for instance, birds, because some of them may fly long distances and they need this storage of oxygen in their muscles in order to do this work, or animals that dive deep into the waters and they need this oxygen in their tissue. So what type of cells have this? I just pointed that out in that illustration. It's going to be in all vertebrates. Yeah, and they're going to be found in the myocytes or oxidative skeletal muscles in animal cells. So, have research sequenced the gene for this protein? They have, and they have done it in multiple organisms, including our own, as you can see here, in the organization of human myoglobin gene. So, this is the entire sequence. It's very long. Diseases associated with myoglobin gene. Recently, they've been finding cancer cells that have this gene in them. So, a recent study found that 40% of breast tumors and 53% of prostate tumors were shown to express this gene, myoglobin, but they find that it has a benefit to being in these cancer cells. They think it's an attempt to manage changes in metabolic and environmental factors associated with neuroplastic growth. So there are diseases associated with this gene. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.